is here, December 3rd, 2024. I'm calling the Select Board meeting to order. We've got, I think, a very quick meeting tonight. It's going to be a tale of two cities. This one's going to be quick. The 17th is going to be really long, which we'll talk about momentarily. Okay, let's start off with our normal public comment, 3 minutes or less for anything that's not on the agenda. Nope, nobody there?
There's no one.
Okay. All right. So our first scheduled appointment is Diana Wainrip. Diana she's a lot of things, but she's my neighbor for one thing. She's Al's wife, better half, I might say. Diana is going to talk to us about appropriately on Giving Tuesday, a project that she's been working on. Diane and Al and their daughter Andrea were all part of the group of us that tried to help the Haitian families when they were here over a year ago. So she got very involved there, and this is kind of a outgrowth of that, I would think. So Diana, why don't you take it from there?
Okay, do I introduce myself?
Yeah, go ahead and do it again, and where you live.
Diana Wainrip, 35 Pine Hill Road. I'm very happy to be here tonight to be able to fill the select board in on work that we've been doing. We call ourselves the Westboro Southborough Neighborhood Support Team, work that we've been doing since, I've been doing it since January. The person who's really the heart of this, her name is Laura Watkins. She started this in 12/23. I just thought it was time for the select board to hear what we've been doing, to hear what this community here in Southborough has been doing, who have been incredibly supportive and active, and to see whether the select board can lend us a hand on some issues. So we are the Westboro Southborough Neighborhood Support Team. We are a group of volunteers from Southborough and Westboro and from other towns. Hopkinton, some folks from Hopkinton just got involved. We have some people. Just come this a little bit closer. Okay. All right. We're a group of volunteers from Southborough, Westboro, and some other communities. And we've been working to welcome refugees staying at 3 local hotels in Westboro and help assure that their basic needs are met while in the temporary housing in our area. So the way that this all started and what's been going on over the last year is in December of 2023, Laura actually learned of refugees staying at the Extended Day America Hotel on East Main Street in Westboro. In early January, she had a connection at Centria Care Alliance, which is one of the refugee agencies in Worcester. There are several who bring in refugees, and they said they had a desperate need for winter coats, winter boots, winter hats, and gloves. So Laura posted this on Southborough Community Sharing Care and said, if you happen to be in Worcester, please drop some off at Centria headquarters. And I happen to go to Worcester every week to deliver food for Rachel's Table, so I told her I'd go to Savers and buy some coats and bring them over there if she could remind me of what the address was. And she said, well, Centria actually just told me they have no room for the coats, so why doesn't she just go directly to the hotel? And she said, so why don't you just meet me there? And as some of you who were involved in when the Haitian migrants were at the Red Roof Inn know that when you go with something and people have nothing, you walk in there and everybody descends upon you with no organization whatsoever, and everybody is grabbing at everything because they have nothing. And so it became clear very quickly that we really needed to organize, that we needed to be able to get winter coats on all the people at the hotel at that time, but that they also needed quite a bit else. They needed clothes, they needed shoes, they needed help to understand how DTA cards work, they needed to be able to get to the grocery stores because many didn't have any food. The Extended Stay America, that one has little kitchenettes, but they also were all halal, so they needed to have halal food, or many of them were. They needed toiletries, they needed diapers if they had babies, they needed formula. Instant Pots were a great thing because they could make their rice and vegetables and meats in one pot. Toys, school supplies. So they truly, many of them came with nothing, and we realized that there was a lot of work to do. So since January 24 to the present, we have served families as they cycle through. It is now actually 3 hotels in Westboro that the refugees are staying at. There's also the extended stay on Connector Road and the extended stay on Computer Drive. So there are a lot of families there right now. We continue to service them from their initial arrival until they move into Worcester, which is where they are then placed, is in the housing in Worcester. Their average stays are from about 2 weeks to up to 4 months. We also follow the families to Worcester to help them settle into their new lives, make sure that they have bedding and pots and pans, and that they sort of can navigate their new home. I have some families that I still am working with that I met probably in February or March, and that moved into Worcester met them in March, moved into Worcester in June. It's exciting to watch because now several of them have jobs. They're beginning to be able to provide. They still have a lot of needs, but we're still giving them winter coats because they're not working they're working at minimum wage jobs, and they have large families, but it's still very exciting to watch. The kids are going to school, they're learning English. So we've been doing this, as I say, since January. The number of families that have been serviced at the hotel through only a Sentry, as I say, there are 3 major agencies. There's a Sentry, there's something called REAC, and there's ORIS. A Sentry is the umbrella under which we operate because that's who was the refugees in the hotel when we first got there. We don't work a lot with them, but they are our umbrella because if we didn't get vetted by them, they would not let us be in the room with the refugees. Their number as of the end of September was that they had brought 59 families or 136 individuals through the hotel by the end of September, but that does not include the other 2 agencies. And right now at the 3 hotels, as of this afternoon, before 2 more families were supposed to arrive tonight, there were 132 individuals in 3 different hotels, 51 adults and 70 children. All of those children over the age of 5 attend the Westboro Public Schools. So they cycle through, when they get here, one of the volunteers registers them for school. That was a big issue with Westboro. They did not let the kids go to the schools there until September of this year. So kids would just sit in their hotel rooms for months. It was not a good situation, but my understanding is there was a new superintendent who came in September who thought this was a terrible situation to not give the kids the opportunity to go to school. So now there's a bus that comes, or a van that comes to the hotels, picks up the kids and takes them off to school, which is wonderful. So who are these refugees? Well, they're here in the United States all through the Department of State, so it's a federal program. The Commonwealth does not get involved at all, other than Mass Health and SNAP, but they're brought here by the federal government, by the State Department, under the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. The greatest percentage of these refugees are coming from Afghanistan. It's been fascinating to learn about their situations and what it was like for them there. Many of them still have family there. Others come from a variety of countries with ongoing conflicts. We have people from Syria, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Central African Republic, Sudan, Venezuela, just among others. Some come under, several of the Afghans have come under the Special Immigrant Visa Program for Afghans, which is really also nicknamed the Ally Program. These are people who worked with our military or our government. We've had several who are interpreters for our military. Some worked with the government while they were there. Some were part of NGOs that were trying to help women. So they come under the special program, and actually within a month they will get their green card once they're here, which they deserve. And often those folks will actually have pretty good understanding of English. Then we've got, then we've got others who are probably the majority that come in under a UN program. And that's the UN program, the High Commission for Refugees. Basically, they have people in refugee camps, and these people are in refugee camps for 10, 20 years, waiting to be able to come here. And the UN basically allocates among the different UN countries. Each country has a number that they're willing to accept in a year, and the UN allocates different families to different countries. They have really very little control over which country they end up in. I think many of the families feel pretty fortunate that they ended up in Massachusetts as they stay here and they are welcomed here. As I said, they're sponsored by a variety of agencies out of Worcester. Once they actually are only, under the program, they only get assistance for up to 90 days, but if they're in the hotel longer, obviously the agency supports them in the hotel. Once they get them in Worcester, theoretically, they only support them for 30 days of rent. And we're talking about people, most of whom do not speak English, and they're told they have to get jobs, and they can't get jobs when they don't speak English. Some of the Spanish-speaking individuals, they can find a place where there is a Spanish-speaking foreman or something, so they can, find a common language. But there are fewer people, more now than there used to be, that speak Farsi. So there's also we learned of a language called Sango that is spoken by very few, by a small population. I think 400,000 people in the world speak that. We've got people who speak Swahili. It's a very mixed and diverse group and a fascinating group. The influx of refugees has increased and is expected to actually be at a much higher rate through the end of the year as fears of a new administration come in and the kind of welcoming that they might get once the new administration is in. So we're expecting the month of December to be quite busy. So what have we been doing? The communities of Westborough and Southborough have been incredibly generous in responding to our request for help. Volunteers from both communities have maintained our storage area. They've welcomed refugee families at the hotel and assessed their needs. We deliver needed items to the families, including emergency food, baby formula, clothing, diapers, provide translation services, transportation. We had a Halloween party at the hotel. We registered children for school in Westborough. We actually have a program that was set up at the school by the former Finn librarian and another individual for preschool children. They read stories and do activities, art activities. Another woman in our town, Eve Benda, who actually has experience with ESL for refugees, has actually put together an amazing program at the hotel where every refugee, when they arrive, she talks to them, she assesses their English ability, and she has volunteers who come and teach English several times a week, which is truly an amazing thing, and not anything I think you'd find that is happening for most refugees at hotels. It's just, it gives them, they don't learn a lot, but it gives them a little bit of a leg up on understanding some very basic language and beginning to get accustomed to the language. And just having someone who checks in on them every week. We also had donated backpacks for the start of school, clothing and footwear throughout the year, winter coats, hats, gloves, boots, school supplies, diapers, toiletries, toys, specialized items for children who come with special needs, resume preparation to help people start thinking about work, and just a myriad of other things. At the beginning of this year, the Bargain Box let us use their space from January to the end of February 24 to store apparel and other items for refugees. It was wonderful. It was like a little retail store. We didn't bring them in, but for us, we could set everything up. We knew everything was. You could see it all out in the open. It was lovely, but then they had to, of course, start on their own business, at which point Central One Bank in Westborough gave us 2 offices in their upstairs and a hallway. And that's basically where we've been ever since the end of February. And it's an incredibly generous offer from them, and it's been great, except we'll talk about this more in a minute, but we've outgrown that space, and it's not a space that's as conducive to being able to really gather things together. Anyway, other things that have been done.
Okay, Diana, it's 6:43, so you got to 6:45. So if
Okay,
you want to ask us for something, don't use all your time
Okay.
before you.
Well, all I want you to know is how much people in Southborough have done here. The Rotary has collected winter coats for families. We've had and Westborough has these people in their schools. The Westborough Mosque just had a Thanksgiving dinner. We're doing a holiday toy drive where Laura just put this out there. 72 people responded on Southborough Share and Care that they want a name of a kid who they can buy for. So now let me talk about what we're asking for from Southborough. Our neighboring towns and their town governments have all been dealing with the arrival of migrants and refugees, while our town has stayed out of the fray since the experience that we've had at the Red Roof, which was in August 2023. So what I'd ask the Select Board is to join our neighboring towns and those in our community to help address the needs of the refugees at the Westborough hotels. Currently, we collect winter coats and boots and gloves for hotel residents, and we store them at the Central One Bank in Westborough. As I said, the space is a little bit difficult. It's small, it's generous, but it's small. We also have some storage pods that were donated that are in a lot in a church on Flanders Road. And we just annexed 35 Pine Hill Road, the basement, and we have racks across that basement that we're hanging winter coats on. But needless to say that when we're trying to gather for families that are coming in, and we can have, 10, 12 families in a week, and we have to go to 3 different places to get the stuff, it's 30 minutes from 35 Pine Hill Road to the bank, and with stop at Flanders. And it really, it slows us down, it's tiring. So what we'd really like is a reasonable, accessible space. We'd like you to think about whether you know of or have access to a space we could use of approximately 1,000 square feet, first floor accessible by elevator, because we schlep a lot of stuff up and down. We'd love to see if the senior center and we'd love that to have some coat racks and shelving. We'd love to see the senior center and Southborough Youth and Family maybe get involved to help us with things like, we need diapers for seniors sometimes, and that gets very expensive. We need diapers for the toddlers and the babies. So I'm just going to show you very quickly. This is our site at the bank. It's a little bit less messy right now, but you can just see how the boxes are 5, 6 high, and we're old ladies. We have to pull everything down to get to the box below. Then we have to put everything back. It's hard. Reebok donated 100 pairs of shoes. Those are Reebok boxes. My former employer, which is really wonderful.
Okay, so the main thing you need from us is help to find space.
Help to find space, and that's the racking. That's our winter space. Yes.
Do you know how much space you need?
About 1,000 square feet.
Okay, can you put that in a letter to Mr. Purple as far as what you need exactly, so that we
Sure.
can then get that to people who might be able to help you find space? And
Yep.
show them exactly what you're looking for?
Yep.
And any other specific requirements for the space?
Yeah, just fixturing, some fixturing, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, accessibility.
okay.
Accessibility during evening, weekend hours generally as
That
well.
would be wonderful, and that's
Better?
something we don't have at the bank,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I had a thought about that quickly. I'm hard-pressed to think of any place in town that jumps out and says, wow, here's space that the town is not using. But there are actually several storage businesses in town. And there's the U-Haul business over on Crossing Boulevard that is a very large place that has a lot of unrented space. And others in town, maybe if one could convince some of those businesses to step up and provide access to space that they aren't renting at this point, I think there's a fair amount of that out there. So that may be another avenue
And
to
that's, we're
pursue.
talking heated space. It's
Yeah,
storage
yeah,
space.
they're heated, yeah. Actually, in my day job, I use the Crossing Boulevard space, heated and not inexpensive, not hugely expensive, but they might be willing to do a little pro bono work
Well,
there
that's what we'd be
potentially.
looking for.
And we have several storage businesses in town that one
Yeah.
might approach and say, would you be willing to donate some space for that? And those spaces are available typically, maybe not quite 24/7, but
Yeah,
very
no,
extended hours.
Yeah, we can access
So,
it with keys or whatever.
Yeah, that's another possibility that you might look at, but
Okay.
we'll continue to think about other places in town, but that seemed to me to be an interesting possibility.
Okay, thank you.
But this is pretty amazing, Diana, so thank you. I know it's heartbreaking. So,
It's actually not heartbreaking. It actually, there's so much hope there. These are people who just want to, start their lives and are happy to finally be almost at the end of their journey.
yep, and grateful
Nice
for
to be a
anything you
part
can
of
do
it.
for them, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I'm sorry it took so long to get you here.
Oh, well.
Thank you.
But still, this is Giving Tuesday, so good way to start. Okay, Mr. Cundiff, you want to tell us how you want to propose dealing with damaged mailboxes?
Good evening. Sure. In your packet, you have a copy of a draft proposed mailbox damage reimbursement policy. Many communities have a policy, including many of the surrounding communities, have a policy that details how much the town may reimburse for a mailbox that is damaged during plowing operations. As you might expect, mailboxes in the public right-of-way are something that people just feel free that they can go ahead and put their mailbox in the right-of-way without any real parameters. The U.S. Postal Service has parameters that suit their needs. The town, and through my policy, my proposed policy, has some parameters on how we can limit damage to mailboxes. And in that, we also demonstrate that, you know, there's a, what we feel is appropriate for a replacement value for a mailbox. Many people have an array of styles of mailboxes. Some of them are rather expensive. Some have, you know, decorations on them that are probably personal, I would imagine. So this is really intended to give some guidance on how to protect their investment, but also recognize that it's a shared responsibility between the town and the homeowner on what's going on in the public right-of-way. So we're trying to limit exposure to the town for liability to damage, but also give guidance on how to protect your investment. So with that said, I proposed a draft policy. I tried to make it constructive, unlike many of the other policies I've seen, where we're offering solutions to the issue. And if the advice is taken, it should really limit the amount of damage that might occur to a mailbox. Now, all that being said, I want to underline this by saying it's not typical that we hit a mailbox or damage a mailbox. However, there are occasions that we do, and it depends on the storm, which is horrible conditions for the plow drivers to be out, you know, trying to navigate the roads. You know, long story short, we're just trying to protect the town as well as the homeowner's mailbox, private property.
So we've never had a written policy before now, is that a true statement?
To my knowledge, correct.
Okay. All right, so this is our written policy. All right, has everybody had a chance to read the proposed one? Bill and I talked today, prior to the meeting, to get ready for this, and one thing I suggest, everybody looks at page 3, so paragraph C on page, paragraph 3 on page 2, little c. That's only, this is what happens, because we've got, it's not just town employees that do the snowplow, we've got outside contractors that also do the snowplow, and if they were to be the one that hurts the mailbox, then they're responsible for the $50, not us. But I still thought this was asking a little bit much of a resident to understand, to have to maybe take an extra step. So Bill tentatively agreed to change C to say, instead of what it said, if the damage is determined to be caused by a private contractor under contract with the town, the DPW will assist in making the claim with the contractor. In other words, the resident doesn't have to take care of it themselves, so we will facilitate that claim too if it's not us that's responsible. I just could see someone like me going down there and thinking, okay, I'm already irritated that I'm having to do this, and then being told, well, you got to go someplace else, all for $50. So I just thought we should try to make it a little bit easier if it is a contractor involved instead of us. And he said about 25% of our plowing is done by contractors.
Yeah.
So it is a reasonable possibility.
Yeah, that sounds, how many claims do we get a year on average?
I've been here a little over a year, and we've not gotten any while I've been here.
No huge storms though, right?
Right. So it's my understanding we have had issues in the past, and in particular, issues with expensive mailboxes.
Yep.
And that's where the problem comes in. I mean,
Yep.
really, if it's a $50 mailbox, most of the other towns only go up to $30. You know, that's something that I think is reasonable and is effective and does the job it needs to do. So
Yep.
trying to establish some of the guidelines or parameters.
Yeah, I think having a policy is very helpful, and I hate to be harsh about it, but I mean, if somebody puts something in the public right away, they assume some risk there, and so,
Yeah, but I always say, I don't think many people understand
I know that.
public right away. They don't realize that's what they're doing.
Well,
They think it's their yard.
exactly. On the other hand, you know, lack of knowledge of the law
Okay,
is
Sam.
not much of an excuse, so,
I know.
different philosophy here. But I did have one question. You'd included a W-9
Yes.
in the package. There was no reference to W-9, I think, in the policy. It seems to me it's unusual to actually have to file a W-9 for a $50 reimbursement. Is that required?
Unfortunately, it has to go through the accounting process, and then by in terms of payment, we would need their W-9 information to issue the check.
Is that a,
I will deal with, I mean, remember, the one thing I can talk about is taxes, right? Because this is actually a problem. You send someone a 1099, the IRS gets it, it's a matching up, they expect it to be on tax return. This is not taxable. If, you basically are reimbursing for someone for something that costs $50. So leave it there, but I'm going to talk to Carla about this. I don't think we should be sending people with
yeah,
this
I don't either.
1099.
That to me is unusual hassle.
So I can deal with that piece of it, okay?
I think the best way to make sure nobody ever files a claim is to issue a W-9.
Really?
I spent a winter plowing snow, and
So you go down, right, your mailbox costs more than $50, you do this, and then you get told what's the contract, you got to go there, and then on top of that, we're going to send you a 1099. So I don't think it,
How many mailboxes did you hit?
yeah,
Yeah, I think you want to make it as easy as possible. This is some sort of a state requirement, which I'd be surprised by, and you got to deal with it. If it's a town thing.
W-9?
Yeah, if
Oh, no.
if the town is saying this,
Issue, so
no,
yes,
no, I'm saying,
yeah, okay.
and there's exceptions too, all across. I know exceptions that work here, so I'll take care of that piece.
If we could get rid of that, that would make it much easier, certainly.
Okay, Marguerite,
I looked at the town's other policies, and I don't remember seeing one where the contractor would get hit for the damage, but would that impact, say, a contractor's interest in working for the Southborough DPW if they knew they had to handle this?
It actually, contractors like this policy, okay? It limits their exposure as
Right.
well. So the name of the game is also, in addition to the benefit of, having a known quantity when a property is damaged, it also is attractive to contractors to come plow for the town. So we're competing to get those vendors from other towns. So this is a good thing from that aspect too.
Like, so the contractor doesn't get hit with a claim for a $1,000 mailbox or something
that's
like
right.
that, so
They're happy to
protected.
pay the $50.
Yeah, exactly.
Al?
I'm good with this. I grew up in the snow belt in New York, and, mailboxes got knocked over all the time, and it was just your problem. And it was just a fact of life.
We got two
Um,
conservatives here.
This is a fine policy. I think the reality is that very few people are going to ever file for $50. It's, even if we make it easy. So, yeah, I'm good with this either way.
Andrew?
And good that it clarifies the situation, too. I think that helps a lot.
I'm good with the policy.
Is
I'm
it-
someone-
with that
I
one-
have experienced the loss of the mailbox. And, I dealt with it,
How long did you grieve?
So I do have one question.
but
Given that this is a policy, do we have to follow the Dennington rule?
no. She just asked me that question.
Did
Okay.
you not see me whisper to Andrew a minute ago?
You did follow the Dennington rule. Unfortunately, I did not have a chance to read the notice of public hearing
Oh,
that was placed in the packet, so we did follow the Dennington rule. This has been out there for more than the time required under the Dennington rule, so the board can take action tonight if it so chooses.
let's do it.
I move to accept the policy as written with the one change that's been offered.
I'll second.
3C.
All in favor?
Great, thank you.
Go forth and
Check that one
plow,
off,
as
Bill.
they say.
All right, we're moving on to reports. So
So,
chairs,
Madam Chair, just in order to leave him of his obligation to stay, there's a couple of other, I didn't know if there was anything, he does have something under other matters for the IMA, for the utility pipe camera.
all right, so you want to jump to that one, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's the only other one
Yeah, I agree.
that you have.
Yeah, unless you want to stay for the sewer report.
Yep. I just didn't know if the board wanted to handle that.
Well, let's do both of them while you're here. Let's do 6C here, okay? Okay, we're going to do 6C, and we're going to do 6B. So let's do 6B first. So Bill, back to you.
Sure. A while back, we submitted for a pipe inspection camera using the Commonwealth Community Compact Grant application for regionalization. And we were lucky enough to be awarded a $110,000 grant. What's okay, but it's not great, is camera kit that we're looking at costs $140,000. So we did have Hopkinton and Westboro join as part of the regionalization portion of the grant. So it's going to be a shared piece of equipment between the three towns. As such, we work with town council for our town and Westboro to draft an intermunicipal agreement. Okay. To draft an intermunicipal agreement, and that's the agreement that's in the packet. So Westboro's select board has already signed the IMA. Hopkinton should be discussing it and hopefully signing it tonight, as is Southborough. So that's the status. It's a good tool for the DPW. As I've mentioned in the past, we don't want to put a large capital investment in roads unless we know the infrastructure beneath the pavement is in good shape. Doesn't make sense to dig up a newly paved road, in other words. So that's really the point of this.
So the extra 33 will be shared between the three towns, so we
Correct.
will do 11, and you'll do that out of your fiscal '25 budget.
That is correct.
So, Andrew, I don't know if this is applicable to what you're trying as One Stop, but clearly the state is pushing towns to do things with other towns, right?
I was thinking that.
They want things to be regionalized. I mean, you can name 3 or 4 that we know about. So here's another one. We got this because of the regional approach. This was a regional grant. So I don't know if that would help as far, I don't know if this is the kind of thing that you could also apply to, if we get Westboro involved with Route 9?
Yeah, and I'll just briefly talk about that. So at one of our prior meetings, right, I think I was delegated to try to make progress on One Stop and MAPC Technical Assistance Grant. Now, the latter of those, that has a December 13 deadline to file, so that's going to be tough. But as you mentioned when we met with Leah Emerson, it seems like the feedback from the state is that regional grants to the One-Stop program have a better chance of success than ones that are just purely focused on one municipality. So I was at the planning board meeting, very brief Zoom appearance last night to get some buy-in and feedback from them to help, support our one-stop application. And I know Leah's already reached out to the planning director of Westboro and has got a meeting preliminary schedule up to see, hey, would they be interested in going in with us on an application for a corridor study on Route 9. So that's under the preview of coming attractions department.
Could we get a retro reimbursement for this camera thing, you think, or is that not possible? Since we've already done the deal.
The extra
I thought
33,000?
we-
Yeah, for the extra 33,
Oh, for the-
yeah.
I don't know, that's something so totally different than the
Yeah.
zoning thing that I.
Yeah, but different from zoning, but it's,
I would doubt it,
I
Sam.
wouldn't-
I mean, sorry, this is done, we got 110,
Okay.
we're only gonna pay 11, so
Okay.
I bet this would not be looked on very fondly.
That was kind of I think that if I remember this correctly, this was kind of a negotiated number with the state as to what the state had available under the program.
oh, okay.
And while it was said, here's the total cost, they said, well, can you make this amount work? And the 3 communities determined that it would still have great value even if they had to each pony up about $11,000.
Correct.
And we're the lead community. Jay Tellerman's office has looked at this. They actually drafted it, so this is our agreement, tweaked a little bit by one of the towns.
Supplement page through Westboro,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, so this is our agreement. Jay looked at it, and we are the lead community, so it sounds like a pretty good deal for Southborough.
Looks good.
Okay. All right, so we need a vote to actually approve it and sign it tonight.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to commend you for doing this. This is the sort of thing we ought to be doing more of.
Thank you.
Marguerite?
I think it'll save a lot of expense on road repairs.
But it's the kind of thing that may turn up information that we really not
Yeah.
happy about, yeah.
Sometimes
Exactly.
better not know.
Good point. Andrew, you're okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so Sam, you'll make a motion?
Yeah. Move we approve the proposed IMA.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
All right, now, everybody should be very happy about the next one. I'm looking at you, Al. So, Special Act still has not, the repeal of the Special Act, the piece that removes us from being the tree warden, still hasn't been approved. You know, we approved it at last town meeting, and the legislator still hasn't done their thing to it.
So the House has approved it, it now sits with the Senate.
Oh, progress.
So now I've shifted from Representative Donahue to
Jamie?
Senator Eldridge.
All right, so you'll keep on that?
Yes.
Okay, but in the meantime, Mark has talked to Jay Tellerman, and he has said you can actually delegate the authority to Chris Leroy to actually be the tree warden going forward, and we don't have to go to the hearings. He can actually do it. Yeah, well, I'm looking at you. Okay, so there is a hearing coming up, that's why we're doing this tonight.
Is this for the National Grid?
Yep,
Okay, yeah.
needs to get in front of us, because I got a bunch of trees that need to come down. So Chris, and I heard it from his own, maybe I'll put him on the phone. He says he's fine with this. And we explained what it means is you'll be there with the planning board, and they've got to vote. A majority of them have to vote with you. So he said, look, I won't change my mind. I'm coming in with what I recommend, and then we'll just see what they've got to say. And he's done many of these hearings and does a great job,
I'm just curious, where will, the hearings will then just be at a planning board meeting?
I guess.
Or,
Likely, I think this one's already scheduled, if I'm
Okay.
not incorrect.
I don't know that it's scheduled, because they would have had to check with us.
It's scheduled, they've been scheduling it for December 17th,
And I
Who
thought it was
has?
usually on a select board.
planning board.
Without us being involved?
I
Oh,
think there
because the
was-
17th was our meeting.
There were
Okay,
certain assumptions that were made.
Right.
okay.
So we'll have to follow up on that, but,
Yeah.
Okay, well, the 17th, we couldn't have done anyway. That meeting is packed. So we couldn't have done the 17th anyway, so this is all good. So everybody okay with this? And Bill wanted to know if I thought.
and this
the
is
sub-
under existing stipend arrangement, I think?
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
he
yeah.
gets $4,000 a year.
Yeah.
But he said fine. And I said, of course, this
Okay.
is just temporary till the Special Act gets repealed with that part of it. And then we will then vote to appoint the tree warden,
Sounds good.
right? Okay. And Bill said to me, do you think the select board will be okay with this? I said, we'll see. We'll see. We'll
What
see.
can you offer us to
Okay.
sweeten the pot here?
We'll see. We'll see. Okay, anybody have any questions as far as what we're doing? So we will not be doing any of the tree hearings going forward.
Darn.
Unless we change our mind. Okay? All right, so Samuel make a motion to designate Chris Leroy as our tree warden
Designee,
designee.
effective immediately.
Yes?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay.
thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Thanks, you
You
too.
want
Thank
to
you,
stick
Bill.
around for the
As
quick
always.
wastewater report, or you want to run away?
No, I'll stay.
Yeah, okay. We'll go quick.
And out of consideration for the fact that Chris has been sitting here for a long time, Chris is here because we're about to, on the consent agenda, we've got the approval of 2 part-time building inspectors, so he was just here in case we had any questions. Is anyone going to have any questions about either one of them, so we can let Chris stay if he wants to, but he doesn't have to stay?
Yeah, I don't have any questions about the individuals, but is this enough at this point? Are you staffed up then with this?
Come on up.
Chris Lund, Building Commissioner. The 2 members that we'd be adding to the team are alternate building commissioners used in an emergency purpose only. If
Okay.
Myself and Jean were unavailable. So really, they're going to have limited exposure to the department and just on an on-call emergency basis. So having 2 on the bench, if you will, is fantastic for us. So just in case, we kind of did it so that we'd have 2, just in case life changed with one of them, we'd still have somebody as an officer. So
Good, good.
we're more than covered.
So this satisfies the need going forward as far as you, and we're similarly protected in terms of wiring and gas and whatever other inspectors we need in terms of,
Yes,
Staffing
we all
there?
have backups.
good, okay,
Everybody's in good shape at the moment.
great, good news, so I'm fine with this.
Anybody have any questions for Chris? Okay, so let's go ahead and specifically vote on this one, since he's been nice enough to be here. So Sam, you'll make a move to appoint the 2 alternate building inspectors.
Yep. Okay, I can't find the names, but I'll move that we appoint
I'll get them for you. Let's get them.
Michael Giampietro and Peter Tartikoff as alternate building inspectors.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're done.
Thank you
Good.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not
Okay.
sticking around for wastewater, sorry.
Oh,
It
okay.
is very interesting.
So Al's going to do
though.
that, all right, so that's fine,
Riveting.
too. And are you going to stay for that, too, Bill? Okay, so now we're going to go back up to reports. So Chair's report, I'm going to talk a little bit about NERI, but I'm going to expand it, because we've got to get some things on our calendar here. Okay, so December 17th is going to be a very long meeting. We are going to start off we need to start at 6. Anybody have a problem with 6 o'clock on the 17th? Because we've got 4 different things to do with the police department. We've got 2 new police officers. We've got a person being promoted to sergeant and a person being promoted to lieutenant. So it's going to be a few things. They'll be here, so they'll take probably 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. So we start off with that. Then we're going to go, the entire NERI building committee is going to be here along with our consultants, which include the Arrow Street, which is our designers, and our OPM, Stanska. They'll be here. Greg Martineau, our superintendent's going to be here. Keith Lavoie, director of operations, will be here. So it's going to be a big group here for that one. That will start roughly at 7:15, and I would think it's going to take about an hour and a half at least to get through everything we've got planned to go over that night. So this is the first time they've come in front of us to truly lay everything out, talk about all the research that's been done. Tim Tees from, he hadn't been invited, so I'm hoping he's going to come. Tim Tees will also be invited to come to talk about the landfill, because there's been concerns raised about that, what all he's done, all the testing that's been done, and the plans for that. So that's going to be the first big item. The second thing we're going to do is then meet with the Capital Investment Planning Committee and talk about their recommendation for fiscal year 26 for capital. Bill's met with them. There's quite a bit of stuff on there, including bill stuff. They will also talk about the 10-year capital plan at the same time. So that's going to take another hour or so by the time we get through that. That's extremely important to understand that, because we need to understand how that all fits in with the NERI project, right? So they'll be there. So both of those committees are chaired by Jason Malinowski, so it just made sense to put them both on the same night. Then next, Brian Ballantyne will be here to give us the first peek at the fiscal year 26 budget. All the submissions will be in at that point, so he will basically have amalgamated them, and we'll see what the first crack of it looks like. Okay? Then, so there's no more time for anything else on that meeting, so anything else that we have to do other than we will recognize other departments as far as what they've done this year, which we always do at that last December meeting. So we'll do that at some point during the meeting. But that will be it for the meeting. It's already going to be a long meeting, so hopefully there's nothing else that anybody can think of that has to happen before the end of the year. If not, we may have to have a quick Zoom meeting to do it. Okay, the next thing to look at your calendars, look at January 25th, which is a Saturday for the Budget Summit. Advisory signed off on that date, so I hope that that works for everybody. We'll figure out what time we'll start later as far as logistics, but I assume we'll do it at the Public Safety Building training room like we have the last 2 years. Okay, so far so good? Yep. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's it for me. I'm not going to talk anymore about NERI project because we're going to see it all on the 17th. All right, Al, wastewater treatment.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Sam, Bill, and Brian Shea, who has offered to give us the benefit of his experience, this is what he does for a living, had a very good meeting with Weston and Sampson. They provided us with a lot of useful information, mostly about things that we were thinking about doing that we probably shouldn't. What we learned was there are basically 2 different models of wastewater treatment plants. There's something called surface discharge. The surface discharge is similar to what's done in Westborough or in Marlborough, where the treated effluent ends up in a body of water and then makes its way to the sea in some way. If you do surface discharge, you need a federal permit under the Clean Waters Act. And expanding your federal permit we've been led to believe, is exceptionally difficult. That communities that may have excess capacity in their existing system will treat that as a strategic resource for the future. So that leaves the other option, which is ground discharge, which is essentially finding the way to make the treated effluent go somehow into the ground. And that's probably, if we were to engage in wastewater treatment, would probably be the model that we would have to follow. An interesting option there that we discussed is that there are communities that use treated effluent to irrigate their golf courses. And so that might be a potential use that we could explore. There are other items as well. It does look like, you need space for both a plant and a discharge area. They do not have to be in the same place. As I say, we're still babes in the woods. This is very, very early on. We're simply trying to understand the lay of the land. I think we'll get together again in the next week or so. My feeling is that the next step is probably to go and talk to the DEP and figure out, what their perspective is in terms of if we were to try and build wastewater treatment facility for the Route 9 corridor. And once we get to that point, it's probably useful to talk to the major players on the Route 9 corridor to find out their perspective on this, and then proceed from there. And at that point, I think we start looking for probably money to take the next step. But this appears possible. There appear to be options available to us. And we're going to continue to poke at this until we come up with a more definitive plan. Does that sound about right, guys?
Yep. Valuable to rule out some things that we have been thinking about pretty clearly from technical expertise that we've gotten input from. So it's narrowing the field a little bit, but there's no solution in there that jumps out and says, wow, here's what you do at this point.
All right. Thank you, Al. Marguerite?
This will be quick. Basically, the old burial ground needs some kind of structure for hopefully historical commission representative and maybe a citizen at large and maybe a select person, not sure yet, to create work orders to have things done in the old burial ground that are appropriate. Trees growing out of headstones, fallen limbs. So that on the 17th of December during the daytime, Sally Waters as an interested resident, Kevin Miller as the chair of the Historical Commission, and I are going to meet with Chris Leroy and with Bill to talk about a possible how you would have ongoing through time a structure where someone could write a work order for the old burial ground. And that's basically all I have for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. You got to find a way to fund it.
Well, actually, it shouldn't need funding. I mean, except that the highway department, the cemetery department, the water department, the cemetery department must have funds, right?
We have our normal operating budget. Sorry about that. We have our normal operating budget, which does not include specialty items like stone restoration or, but routine maintenance, it does cover. I know there's instances when we may be able to access the perpetual care account. However, they have to meet certain requirements in order to access those funds.
And a couple of weeks ago, the Board of Commissioners of Trust Funds voted up to $5,000 for some tree work in the OBG.
Right.
So those kind of numbers may be possible going forward, but there's not a huge bundle of money there. But again, there's opportunity to get some funding from the trust fund.
That's a start.
Sam, do you want to be part of the discussion on the 17th?
I don't necessarily need to be, but maybe if I can join, I don't know if I can.
We'll see if we can
Okay.
Zoom it, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the problems are tree-related. There's a little bit of issue with landscaping mowers riding over the headstones that have fallen over and breaking them. So it's kind of pieces of feedback like that that need to be current.
And relayed to me so I can talk to our vendors and
Right.
deal with the issue.
Yeah, right. So it's more eyes on the ground in the cemetery, passing along information. The other thing is that there are 4 graves, or 4 family plots that have railings around them or had railings around them. To do them in the style of the common would be incorrect because that's much more recent. So again, it would be an issue of giving feedback and what would be an appropriate type age of restoration appearance for those things. So we have a lot of resources in town of people who know a lot about the old burial ground, and I'm hoping that we're able to sort of continue to tap that and to be able to say, well, here we need a work order for this. Anyway, so that's under discussion, hopefully not expensive.
All right.
And I talked to Mark about it, and he said not to set up anything permanent, because that will involve a budget, and we don't want to do that.
In minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, thank you. Marguerite, Mark?
So I've added a couple of things in here, and I'll mention one, one and a half while Bill is sitting in front of us. Up on the website, on the Public Works page, Bill has posted the draft sidewalk accessibility report that has been done by Beta. It's a ADA self-evaluation and transition plan of our current sidewalks, looking at curb cuts, looking at ramps, looking at what is compliant, not many, what is not compliant, a lot. And Beta had suggested that they be put up there to seek comments. So there is information up on the Public Works page. We'll make sure to get that out through social media so people understand that it is up there if they do want to offer comments to that. This is kind of the secondary piece to our road program.
Correct.
So, it'd be good to get any comments back, but hopefully.
I'm hopeful to wrap everything up on that project in the next 2 weeks, so.
Okay.
Prior to 2 weeks would be great.
Okay.
So what kind of comment are you looking for?
This recommendation came from our engineer Beta. They thought it would be good to open this conversation up to the public and solicit input from the public so they can include that or at least think about it as part of their final report.
Okay, all right.
Mark?
Yes.
A point to that. I think this is an important step in terms of what I see as a movement toward getting better data on, it started with roads, and this ADA thing came out of that. And we also, again, have video from that road thing that creates the possibility of doing some tree inventory work, as a matter of fact, going forward. I mean, it's a lot of work, but at least we're starting to build a database to get into the GIS in a way that we can access it and use it for management purposes, which we've never had before. This is a multi-year project, but we could get to the point where we have a lot of information about where we need to invest in road work, sidewalks, trees, et cetera, in the public right-of-way here. So I think this is a great step forward, and it'll take a while, but we're on the right track with it.
So you combine that with the, the camera system we talked about earlier and understanding what's under the roads.
Yep.
So I think some of those numbers could end up being somewhat more daunting than simply
Surprising.
putting down 2-3 inches of bituminous.
But at least you need to know what you're dealing with. And again, kudos to Bill and his team for pursuing this, because I think this puts us in a much better position to plan. So thank you.
So the other piece I just want to give a quick update on is a couple of things regarding golf. I did send out to the board earlier this week. We got the final November revenues from the Golf Management Company. Again, we are, $100,000 ahead of last year in overall revenues. We finished the year just under $800,000 in total revenues. We, exceeded the number of rounds for the year by, 2,000 more than last year, have continued to improve every single year. A lot of the improvements we've made have benefited, the course and the ability for them to, continue to find ways to add more rounds. I think this irrigation project, is only going to help to sustain those numbers and make sure that the course remains playable. Of the 782,171 that we took into revenue this year, based on the agreement with the management agreement that we have for calendar 2024, that resulted in $112,434.20 being put into the golf course revolving fund. So I just wanted to report on that, but I also wanted to just give you a brief update on on the Gulf irrigation project. And I will note that, I will try and do my best because the person who is handling this project is sitting 8 feet away from me and provided the information that I'm going to share with you now. This has been a little bit convoluted in terms of the pieces of the project. We're dealing with an old irrigation system which has old lines. We're going to be putting in a new pump. We're going to be adding additional new irrigation lines. And the engineer has had to work to try to figure out how to adjust and handle the different pressures so that that the new lines could handle, but the old lines were going to have holes, we're going to blow heads, we're going to have those issues. So I think that we've gotten those things under control. The other issue has been dealing with National Grid, and that's been a whole separate piece in terms of the bid documents for the pump design. We had assumed $10,000 in the engineering contract to handle these issues. Grid is submitting us an invoice of $32,000. We have done our darndest to try to get that number down to something reasonable, but we are having conversations as to how that is going to be worked into the bid documents. That likely is going to be the responsibility of the contractor for installing these items. In terms of a bidding timeline, it's probably going to be about 4 weeks for bidding, and then another couple of weeks before contract award. 6 to 8 weeks lead time for fabricating the equipment, and then about 4 weeks for construction. That's going to probably put us out into end of April, beginning of May. So it will be after the season starts, but I don't think it's going to impact the play at all. I think the biggest issue is the pump, and doing the water connections, but installing the new lines, and that should be relatively, I don't want to say painless, but it's not a long process to actually do that. So that kind of gives you an idea of where this is. If, I've seen Bill shake his head a little bit as I've been talking. He didn't shake it the wrong way. So if there's anything I've missed.
No, that's a fair summary.
Okay. Well, I had good notes, so.
Hey, Mark?
Yes.
Back up for a second. I just
Sure.
looked up the numbers. When St. Mark's was running this course, they were doing about 9,000 rounds a year, 9 to 10,000 rounds there. We were over 27,000 this year, so
Yeah.
tripled the volume. Kudos to the golf management company, you've been
Yep.
very helpful. Kudos to the golf committee.
Yep.
It's been very active in terms of finding ways to make this a more enjoyable family experience. I mean, in a perverse way, COVID helped us in that drove a lot of people outside looking for recreation.
Did.
And a lot of those folks stayed and played golf after COVID. So it's been fortuitous from that standpoint. But there were many naysayers when we bought the property saying this is going to be a financial drain on the town. But in fact, it's not the case, and it's a great recreational asset that a lot of people appreciate. So I think
I think the
turned out
goal
wonderfully.
ultimately, when I first was looking at this, the goal I think was to get the course up on its feet and let it succeed or fail on its own, but not because we didn't make the investments and put it back the way we should. And again, with the help of the golf committee, and the management company's been a great partner. We've gotten it back up. It's doing well, and I agree. The silver lining of COVID, really got a lot of people who weren't golfing out there and golfing. Plus, I also think that some of the other 9-hole courses in the area that have been bought and or sold and now are becoming housing and everything in that has limited some of the options, and it's just a great resource to have, right in the center of our town.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Millwood helped us when DePietri bought that one for
Yeah.
sure. So it's a little early now, but sometime next year, I'd like to invite Tony and the committee to come in front of us and talk to us. I think we can get to a point maybe that we can consider actually pulling some money out of the revolving fund to offset general fund expenses. I have, as Al likes to talk about it, a return on our investment of $5 million in that land. I mean, even at $50,000, it's only 1%, but still 1%. $50,000 can pay somebody's salary almost. So I just want Tony to tell us what else needs to be done as far as they know, look at their capital plan, see if that is viable. But that's down the road, but that's all really
So just
good
keep
news.
in mind that if we do that, we then need to change the bylaw.
I know.
Yeah, for the revolving fund.
I got it.
So, And the last thing I wanted to talk about, I was talking with the chair, and we agreed that I'm probably going to have a standing item on every agenda, which is going to be an update on the rec. There really is not a lot of an update yet. I believe that after tonight, the IMA will be fully executed, so I will officially have voting rights as of tomorrow's meeting. But it's, we are dealing, with the issues that the board had said was, were going to be important, is exactly what we're, is in process. The lease with the town, which the rec is taking from other similarly situated recs in the host communities and using those as the template in negotiating with Westborough. Hiring the executive director, the advertisement is being prepared for that. A lot of the items, that's going to be the first employee of the rec. So we've got to get, the tax ID number. We've got to be recognized by Worcester County Retirement as a system or as a entity to be able to offer benefits. And so that is moving forward. And the OPM that is working for the project is going to be, hopefully tomorrow, providing a draft of the grant, the next round of grant funding through 911. They have a subcontractor for IT services who is meeting with our chiefs to understand the needs that need to be addressed through the grant. So we need to make sure that those things are going to be included in the grant process. There is a community update that is being planned sometime later this month to have the OPM and all of the subs kind of put together a presentation so that people can see what is being done with the property, what the design looks like, how that is moving forward, timeline, and answer questions that people may have. I'll provide you more information as soon as I have that. Hopefully, it's going to be an in-person and virtual options if people aren't able to come in person. And the only other thing of interest that came out of the last meeting is that the towns of Millbury, Northborough, Upton, and Hopedale have been approached in terms of participating in the Metro West Rec. So things are moving. It's kind of like taking a blank piece of land and saying, let's build a town. And everything that goes into that. So, there is a building. The one other piece I will add, again, this is an old school building. It has historic value. So, a member of the Historic Commission has kind of been involved in helping to look at things that are being done to the building to ensure, and it's mostly facade, to make sure that the facade is going to be maintained in its historical context. So, that is what I have for now. If there's any questions.
Al?
No, good report. I'm following it with great interest. I
it
do
sounds
agree,
like
the building is actually a handsome building, and should be exterior be preserved. Now,
Thank
there are
you,
a whole
Bill.
bunch of standards they have to follow for
Bill.
emergency buildings
Yeah.
that I assume are stuff they'll have to do on the inside. But
Yeah, the only thing with the exterior is going to be, adding in accessible access as well as the elevator. So that there's the elevator shaft and everything in that is kind of going to be put more towards the rear on the side, closest to the fire station. And so they're trying to figure incorporating that, but also maintaining the same style brick, everything else that currently exists with the building.
The thing that gives me a lot of comfort is that there's an OPM hired to put the grant together that knows what they're doing and understands what, hopefully will do all the work to truly get all the costs rolled into that grant request.
Right.
Which is
Right.
not what we had last
And,
time.
and like I said, we, jumped on that the last meeting to make sure that their people are talking to our people to make sure that Southborough's needs are represented in this application. So,
I mean, we
Mark,
certainly have a lot of needs, particularly in terms of communications.
And that's where we're focusing.
Yeah.
I had a question. Has the rehabbing of the building begun? Did it begin before we joined the IMA?
I'm sorry, the
Re-
rehab?
Rehabbing of
Actual
the building?
rehabbing of the building that,
No, I don't, I think there's still in the
there's no
design and the
lease yet. I mean,
planning.
it's not
So
even a
this-
lease. The
Yeah,
lease is not done.
there's been no actual work that's been done yet. So, they did have, I'm gonna look at Sam or Al to hold me to this, but they did have tenants in the building.
There's a bunch of
They had
stuff
the
that
Boy Scouts, they had other things.
groups had stored
And
stuff
one of
there.
the issues has, so the tenants have now been, I don't want to say evicted, but they're no longer there.
Repositioned, yeah.
It took a while to get people to leave. The problem is that they left behind a lot.
Mhm.
And the question is, how is that all going to get removed? So that's part of the conversation, is all that stuff needs to be disposed of to clear out the basement level, because they're having a hard time getting measurements and doing what they need to in the basement level because there's just so much stuff down there. So, another
Thank you.
hurdle for us to figure out.
All right, so I've got one more I forgot about. So 32 Causland, which is the building, the EMC building where our tower is, closed today. Here's the text from the company that bought it. Just wanted to give you a heads up that we closed on 32 Causland earlier today. Very excited to get going on this one, which is what I want you to hear. We'll be in touch. So it's a company that its name is Atlantic Management Corporation. And there's more than one Atlantic in Massachusetts. There's Atlantic Retail that does a lot of commercial leasing. This is different. They're based in Framingham. They've done 2 big projects around us. They've done the one that includes Avalon and Marlboro and all the buildings around there. They've also done one on Otis Street in Westboro. That is where Amazon's new warehouses and stuff are. So they do big stuff. So they've closed on 32 Causland. They paid $26.4 million for it. They are going to close on 21 Causland, which is a building we had the special town meeting for at Gonquidin years ago. That one is, the building, the property is split between Westboro and Southborough. I think the building's mostly in Westboro, but they're going to close on that in January. There's some issues with that one, but we believe that they're going to actually possibly tear it down and build something much bigger there. So I ran into Chief Puttini on Friday, got to see his new little baby, tiny little thing, and he said that the 2 principals are a guy named Tim Coskren and John Sullivan. So they walked through, Chief and Chris have walked through the buildings with these guys, and they really liked them. But more importantly, he said that the fire chief in Westboro, when he was there, pulled our chief aside and said, these are great guys, because he'd already worked with them in Westboro. He said, this is a great company to work with. You want them in your town. So I think this is going the right way, too. Now, there's still 2 other properties to be bought there. There's the industrial piece that's right on Route 9, and then there's the piece that kind of abuts where you live, Marguerite, that is residential. I think it's Res A back there. So those are, the deals fell through on those, so they've still got to get those sold. But they've sold now basically about half of what they have there. So anyway, okay. Consent agenda, we've already done one thing. So we've got left A, C, D, E, F, and G. Anybody want to hold anything?
I had a question about C.
Okay, anybody want to hold the minutes?
Nope,
Oh my gosh, that's a record. Okay, so you want to hold C, Sam?
just a question about it, yeah.
All right, anybody else want to hold anything? Okay, so why don't we start with C? What's your question?
Question, just to confirm that Melanie or someone has confirmed that everybody is up to date in terms of reports and license payments and all that kind of stuff. So all these folks are current with the town.
So everything has been signed off on in terms of payments, all money has been received, everything else is good. Building, health, and fire need to review, need to go in and officially inspect all of these locations. So building and fire need to go in for all of the alcohol license holders, and Board of Health needs to go in and inspect all the food establishments. Those are ongoing. Building and fire are just about done with the liquor establishments. And health, I believe, is close on the others. Obviously, they're not going to be released until these inspections are complete, but everything else is in line.
Okay, so we can vote to approve this and basically hold until the inspections are?
Yeah, we're not, yeah, we've,
Good.
and last year, if I recall, we still had a few inspections as of the time of approval.
Yep.
But again, licenses are not released until everything is done, all sign-offs are received.
Good. That answers
But
my
are the
question.
inspections going to be done by the end of the year?
Yes, oh
Okay.
yeah.
So these guys will not be held up?
No,
Okay.
no, they will not be.
Good.
They will not be. And I just wanted to, since you held that, it gives me a chance just to, acknowledge, Melanie Otska in our office. She does a great job with this. If you recall, we used to do, hopefully, the majority of them the first meeting in December, but we always needed that second meeting in December for the stragglers. She's done a nice job of getting things out timely, working with everybody to get things done, and getting all payments, applications, and making sure insurance, tip certifications, everything else is up to date. So it's been great. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
So we should get prepared to rest up our arms because the next meeting is the meeting where there'll be,
Writer's
I'll
cramp.
go- and you just sign about
Yes.
150 licenses.
Yes. Yeah.
It's going to be a long
So
meeting.
we'll start at 5:30 then instead of 6.
No, we'll start at 6.
I'm a slow writer.
Start at 6, but it's going to be a long night,
Disorganized.
Yeah.
It's down.
but an important night.
Miss a few.
So no, we're lucky to have Melanie, no doubt about
Yep,
it.
a lot
So,
of detail work, great to have it done.
yep, and she-
thoroughly.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I was, not to prolong, but when I first got here, if you remember Maureen Colery, this license process was all paper. And the table in my office was covered with stacks of paper. And you had to go through, and each person got this and that, and each person gets a thing. Okay, now this goes in this envelope, and the mailing, and it was crazy, and Vanessa would get involved with it, and, Carol would get involved with it, and it was an awful lot. It's electronic now. And, we don't have any postage expenses, we don't have paper expenses. It's been a great, great improvement. The state has, helped us out with that a little bit, and that, but Melanie's really taken a hold of that program and made it what it is, so appreciate that.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion to approve consent agenda items A, C, D, E, F, and G.
Second.
All in favor? All right, that takes care of the consent agenda. We already did B. Okay, we got one quick vote to do on ARPA, and then we truly are done with ARPA, I believe. So Kat McGee ended up giving back about $6,000 from her Trails project. We have talked to Chief Puntini. He already had a list, and so he just could go a little bit further down his list. So he's ready to spend the $6,000. So it's exactly 644,514. So I've got to make a motion first to remove 644,514 from two line items. They are the Southborough Trail enhancements for $1,247.69, and the Peninsula Trail for $5,197.45, and put that into the general tax relief bucket.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, second motion is then to reallocate from the tax relief bucket the same $6,445.14 to fire department equipment.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, ARPA should be done. Okay, I know I said it last time, but it really should be done now. Okay, last thing is, it's hard to believe, but it's time to negotiate a new contract with our police chief, Newell. He's asked us to do that. That's how the process works. So we need to nominate someone to work with Chief Newell on the contract to bring back to us as a draft contract. Last time, Andrew worked on that, so I suggest, Andrew, if you're willing to do it, you
We have
do it
an
again.
expert among us.
Yep.
Are you willing? Great.
Everybody okay with that? Okay,
Yep.
and then we'll have a crack at it once he brings it to us.
It's hard to negotiate with a guy who has a gun, though, right?
Hard to negotiate with what?
With a man who has a gun on the
That's
other
true,
side of the
that's
table.
true, That's true, good point.
But Andrew has done well in the past with
All right,
that.
Sam, can you make a motion to nominate Andrew to negotiate Chief Newell's draft contract?
So moved.
Second? Second. Okay, Marguerite seconded. All in favor? All right. Vanessa, any public comment? All right, so motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
World record.